Alissa.
Hey, Katie.
Welcome to February.
Woohoo!
February. It's the weirdest word.
It is.
It's a terrible word. Okay, hi. We're going to do episode 287, helpful versus liable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that a lot of agents try to use the excuse of, well, for liability purposes, I can't
do that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, something has to be your job.
You must be helpful.
You have to do something.
I don't attend the home inspections because I don't want to be liable. Like, you're 100% liable. Like, you need to go to your home inspection.
Well, I mean, but you're not. All right, let's just start there. First of all, let's start with a disclaimer. Neither of us are lawyers.
Right.
We're not, this episode is not substitute for legal advice.
Right.
If your broker or your lawyer in your area gives you different legal advice, by all means, take it.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk about the mindset of people saying, oh, I can't do that because it's a liability.
Yeah.
I mean, look, life is a liability.
Right.
You could have a car accident and be liable. You could there are things you can do that you are liable for, but we're going to kind of talk through some of the things that maybe you should be doing that you're not doing because you think it's a liability.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So do inspections first because it's the big one.
Mm-hmm. But I also think, like, even leading up to inspections, does your buyer understand that this is their only time that they can get out of the contract voluntarily unless something else happens with, like, financing or...
Yeah, well, because explaining contract terms, I would say you are liable for. Like, that is your job.
Yes.
Like, if you just have them sign things and don't tell them what it is, I feel like this could become a problem for you if they wanted to sue you.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to prove that you gave them the information they needed.
And I think having that in writing, whatever email templates you use for yourself to explain things to your client so that in the event something comes up, you do have it in writing that this was explained to you.
Right.
We had a client recently that 7 days before closing was like, "Hey, I just can't do this." Like and we were like, "I'm very sorry, but you must."
Yeah, like
this is a legal binding contract.
I also think sometimes agents avoid saying that, and I'm like, "What? That is what it is."
Yeah.
Like, you should have been really clear on the front end, but now at the back end, you at least have to be like, sorry, you signed a legally binding contract. So they can sue you if you don't go through with this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Being more upfront with them understanding what they're signing.
Yeah.
And with electronic signature, it takes out so many conversations that need to be had.
Right.
We see how fast things are signed.
Yeah.
And so making sure that we are having those conversations with our buyers, with our sellers.
Yeah.
Like, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, after you sign this, you cannot go back.
The seller is the hardest one.
I know.
Because they really don't.
They don't have a way out. Yeah.
They're like, well, wait, I need occupancy, or I need this, or I want to do that, or I need to, well, it's too late.
Yeah, you signed this close date.
Now we'd be begging. You can ask. They don't have to give it to you.
Right.
Legally. I think that's part of the problem.
Hey there, are you looking for ways to save time and money in your business?
Email Templates 101 is the communication system you need to bring ease and efficiency to managing your transactions and clients.
Save time and avoid mistakes, all while providing a high level of service for your buyers and sellers.
In Email Templates 101, you'll get 13 downloadable buyer templates ready for your personal touches.
And 19 downloadable seller templates, plus 6 attachment checklists.
Head over to hustlehumblypodcast.com/courses to get yours today.
Can we, though, go back to the inspection? Because that's the most common one.
Yeah.
Where a lot of agents, and we actually have that due diligence checklist, right?
Yes.
So when people request it, they receive it from us via email with the question, do you attend your home inspections?
And also, this is a freebie that she's referring to.
Yeah.
It's free.
It is a /make sure.
So hustlehumblypodcast.com/make sure
is how you get it.
Yeah.
And we ask, do you attend your inspections? And y'all would be surprised. There's quite a lot of people who say, oh, my broker told me never to go to a home inspection due to liability reasons.
I just think that's such poor advice no matter what market you're in.
And you can attend an inspection and I think and say, hey, I am here as an observer, as your agent. I am not here as an inspector.
Yeah.
I am not giving you any information about the construction or the status of this house.
Mm-mm.
But I'm here. And also, you have the liability of being sure you're taking care of your client while you're in someone else's house.
Correct.
They can't be just in there running amok.
No.
Then what?
Yeah.
Then you're going to get sued because you let your client be in there alone. I feel like that's just as much, if not more, of a liability than you standing there and not something being missed on the inspection.
I definitely think not being there and just sending your buyer to meet the home inspector puts so much on you.
Right.
That
it would be a bigger liability.
Yes.
I
definitely.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been sued by a buyer because you were at the inspection?
Never.
Same.
Weird.
I know. After 20 whole years, I don't know. But and I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's happened. And inspectors have a very clear, disclosure that they're making the buyers sign before they do the inspection, certainly before they finish it and give them the results. They have pages and pages of legalese attached to the inspection, which is kind of annoying, but obviously facilitated by someone sued them for something. And that's why these documents keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah. So I had a situation recently where the buyer they were not from Louisiana. They were from another state.
Okay.
They had come in town to house hunt, saw the house, but then had to go back for work and could not fly back for the home inspection, which was 4 days later.
Okay.
So I went to the home inspection, brought my laptop, worked while he did his thing, asked permission to video his findings while he went through everything at the end, sent it to my clients with the report.
Okay.
And it went fine. We wrote the repair request. It was very simple, nothing major. And then they did not come back in for the final walkthrough either.
Okay.
And here is where my issues sort of began.
Yeah.
I went to the house, and also another reason that I'm a big advocate for money in lieu of repairs. The things that they insisted on requesting against my advice were things like the toilet handle is hard to push down and it won't like maybe the stopper needed to be adjusted. Still working, but it was a little tricky. This drained slowly. The disposal wasn't working.
These are very subjective fixes.
Yes. Now, we had receipts.
Yeah.
And I went for the final walkthrough and videoed me
doing it,
flushing the toilet. I took a video of me running the garbage disposal.
This is what it's doing.
I took a video of me turning on the switch and the heat vent light working.
Okay.
After closing,
oh no,
this guy who is not in my database any longer,
he ceases to be a
client, decides to call my broker directly. Like, I never heard from him. Never heard like, hey, I got to the house.
There's trouble.
And there's some trouble, because I would have certainly helped out. I just get a call from my broker. She's like, hey. I'm like, what?
What did I do? What did I do that I didn't know I did?
Why are you calling me? And she's like, I just got a call from Mr. So-and-so. And I just went, okay. And he's very upset. I'm like, what? She's like, I know. And she was like, and he told me what he's upset about. The upstairs toilet is still very hard to flush, and that's the toilet that the kids use, and he wants our company to replace the toilets in the house.
All the toilets? Only one toilet couldn't flush.
Right? All new, it was just absurd. But I will tell you, what saved me was my documentation.
You're like, I sent you the video.
I have all these videos. I had an email where I told him it would be in your best interest to be here for the final walkthrough. Do you think you could just
get here?
No. I had more than enough documentation to squash this quickly, very quickly. And I had all of my receipts.
Did Connie call him back?
Yeah, and defended me, and it really ticked him off. Yeah. So that's fine. But I just thought, like, people are always looking at point. So then I find out he also called the home inspector.
Okay.
And was like, I just moved into this house and one thing or all these tiny, tiny things that were maybe even noted. Like, it was just so dumb. And the inspector was like, he was demanding a refund
of his home inspection.
Of his whole inspection.
And what did the home inspector do?
He said, I will do that, but you have to sign this waiver saying that after this, like, you're gone.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, I don't hear
belong to
from
me.
you.
I don't have any liability.
I don't hear from you anymore.
And what did the guy say?
And the guy said, sure, and signed it and got his money back.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
Which was so dumb. And I told the inspector, I was like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was going to be like this after closing.
Right.
You know?
They came in and saw the house at some
in
point.
person.
He did, not just like a wife or a...
Right. They saw the house. So it was just, but it was like they wanted so bad to either go to my broker, go to the home inspector, go to me.
They were very unhappy about the move.
Yeah, I don't think the house was truly great, in excellent condition, one of the cleanest home inspections I've had. So, and everything about it was great. I think it's just the personality of some people is to point the finger.
Yeah.
Like, I bought this house, I moved in, and the light switch isn't working.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, you are a homeowner now.
Right.
And there's going to be some things there. But had I not had any documentation, this could have gone a bit further.
Oh, yeah. Or had your broker been like, oh, so sorry, we'll get you new toilets. Then it's like, after you do one thing, then it's like, well, maybe I'll sue her and see what else I can get.
Yeah, I really think that's the direction this was headed in. And you really and I know people say, like, I don't mind doing phone calls and things, but I am, if it's something important, I think it needs a recap email to summarize what was discussed to make sure everybody's on the same page and you can refer back to that.
Yeah. And it's funny you should say that inspection was actually one of the cleanest that you've ever. It wasn't like these are major issues.
No.
It just proves the point that people can be mad about the littlest thing or the biggest thing.
Right.
It can be something that a toilet is actually not that expensive.
No.
At all.
No.
So.
Mm-mm. And if he would have been kinder,
you probably would have bought him a toilet.
I probably would have bought him a toilet.
Uh-huh.
But the way that he just went about it, I was
one
like,
toilet wasn't going to do.
No.
He wanted all the toilets.
Mm-mm.
You know what? You messed up this toilet. Now you got to replace all the toilets.
Replace all the toilets. They're too hard.
Something else was going on in his life.
It was. And I know that. But you cannot attack me and the people I work with.
Certainly not. Yeah. And legally, he had no leg to stand on.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I don't like that. I had one that came back. It was my listing. My seller was a licensed electrician. That was his job. Okay. He had built this home himself, like with subs, but he had obviously done the electrical work. He is an electrician.
Yeah.
And the buyer, unfortunately, was an engineer.
Oh, no.
I know. I know. And had his own inspection and requested these repairs. And after closing, he called either me or it's been so many years.
Who called?
Me or my broker, the buyer.
Oh, okay.
And was livid because he could not turn on all 5 heater vent lights in all 5 bathrooms, or 4, or however many there were, at the same time without one of them like without it tripping something.
Why do you need so much ventilation?
well, like he was just living there no one was using them at the same time.
Right. So how did he even figure this out?
I don't even know. Like, he just, instead of using the heater, was he using the heaters in the bathroom? I just don't know what was happening. But it was so bizarre. And he basically was trying to accuse my seller of fraud and that he had done all this stuff to this house, incorrectly. I'm like, do you think that this person who lived here for multiple years specifically did it incorrectly? to make a fire hazard. Like, it was all very strange.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can only do what you can do. Like, you had your own inspection. So legally speaking, you asked for repairs. This is what we did. This is the end of the road for us. And please don't call back.
Right. You own the home now.
But what was annoying was I had to then reach out to my seller and be like, hey, this is what's going on. He wanted me to call and ask you this or find out about this.
What'd your seller say?
He was like, you can't turn on all 5 at once. Like, that's not how they make these apply. Like,
are they connected?
No, but it's like, I guess it was overloading a circuit or who the heck knows, because I'm not an electrician. But I was like, he was like,
you may just have to use 3 at a time, sir. Limit yourself on the heat vent
you
light.
were never going to use all of them at the same time, period.
People will find
Why did you show up? It was like, but especially, bless them all, the engineers, they want it to they only do black and white.
Yeah, they want it to make sense.
Well, the science says that all of these things should happen in the electrical system, but the real life application of that is not what it is.
Right.
So, yes, I go back to at least your everything being documented is very important.
Yeah. And
following all the steps. But again, it doesn't matter if you are or aren't actually, it matters more if you aren't at the inspection.
Well, yes, that's sort of what I wanted to get at is you do need to be careful attending things like that without your clients. I typically is not something I would do.
Yeah.
I even asked if a parent could come to the inspection, someone in town, anybody besides just me.
Yeah.
Which is also why I wanted to have it on video.
Yeah.
And I told them if you have questions when you get the report, you call the inspector.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to explain something on his report.
You can't.
Right.
It's not your job. You're not licensed as a home inspector.
But I am licensed to guide and direct. But we do need to be careful of overstepping, or maybe that was a lender question.
Yeah.
Maybe you answered a lender question incorrectly.
Yeah.
You didn't realize that this client wasn't escrowing their taxes.
Or had an arm on their loan.
Yes. Like, there's so many things that we may know the answer to.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't know all the information.
Like, I wouldn't give you advice on how to file your taxes.
Right. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll email the lender. Like, the client will ask me a question and say, hey, I'm kind of confused about this. I'll email the lender, copy the client.
Yeah.
Hey, lender, I've copied our buyer here. This is what we're confused about. Can you please advise?
Yeah.
Just keeping it at the source of who it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I also think I don't think the line is as fine as people make it.
No, and you also cannot let your clients just run amok. Like, oh, well, I'm going to get all of these extra inspections. I'm going to, now I think I want to do this. Now I need to, like, get a camera into every single pipe. Like, the seller isn't required to extend your inspection period. Like, there's got to be some level of reasonable
scope that you're
right. Okay, I want to.
That's like one of the notes on here.
Tell us
when a buyer says, "Should I have a mold inspection?"
Like, what do you say?
I say because I've asked my inspector, what should I say?
Right, and what did they say?
He said, unless you see something that automatically makes you think you need one.
Right.
He said, but generally you would start with your home inspection.
Right.
And from there, if we see something that needs to be evaluated or tested further,
they always put it in there.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
But he was like, here's the thing with mold testing. If you this is a recent example.
Okay.
Opened a kitchen cabinet that had been closed for a long time in a vacant house. There had been a slow leak. There was some mold on the walls of the inside of the cabinet. My buyers are like, do we need a mold test? And the inspector was like, well, that's mold.
It's mold. Here, test.
Yeah. So if you want to spend,
you failed the test.
If you want to spend $600 for a mold test, for me to tell you
it's mold.
Yeah, that's mold. Like, that's mold. Or you can get a spray bottle of bleach and
or consult whatever remediation
consult a mold
person
remediation company. Or I think the mold issue gets a little scarier with like air vents and things like that.
For sure.
But it's not our job to make that choice for our clients.
Yeah.
Because if you advise them, oh, you don't need to get the pipes scoped. There's no trees around here.
Yeah.
And it's new construction.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, a pipe in the yard fails.
Yeah.
And they're like, my agent said.
I had a new construction that ended up with a sinkhole in the front yard because they didn't connect their house's sewer to the main sewer line. And there was no way that you could tell until years later.
Yeah.
So if your client is feeling uncomfortable about something, I'm always like, you're right. You have to decide.
Mm-hmm.
Here are my thoughts. Maybe here's some advice, but you have to be comfortable with this purchase. Not me.
Right.
I'm not living here. I'm not buying this.
Yeah, this is how much that inspection cost. Would that make you feel better?
Right.
Are you comfortable? What would allow you to feel comfortable?
I like what the inspector is saying. You can also get a mold inspection, but I am telling you what we see here this is mold.
Yes,
we can see it with our eyes.
Yeah.
So you can also have the inspection where they tell you the parts per million or whatever they do. Like they're measuring the air for hours on end.
Yep.
I've been to these mold inspections. They're quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk really quick, though, about in Louisiana, the way the law is written. Technically, you become someone's agent as soon as you give them advice. So that is where I would be more concerned about my liability. Like you see your neighbor on the street and they're like, blah, blah, blah. You're like, hey, would love to help you. Just so you know, as soon as I start giving you advice, I am technically your agent. I'm liable for the advice I give.
Mm-hmm. As a professional.
As a professional. It also means, hello, if the designator of being someone's agent is giving them advice, it feels like you have to give advice in order to be an agent.
You do.
You can't just be like, I'm not going to tell you anything ever.
I am just a door opener.
Right. That's not what you are.
No.
Like you actually have to give advice. So is that scary because you could do it wrong? Yes. But that's what you have errors and omissions insurance for. That's why you go to classes and learn the process. That's why you ask your broker questions before you answer questions if you need to. Like, yeah, it's scary. You could be liable for something, but that's sort of the point.
Right.
Right? Like, isn't your CPA liable for the tax advice they give you? Isn't a lawyer liable for the legal advice they give you?
Mm-hmm.
That's your freaking job.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to cover any other stories of things that had liability issues?
We did have a situation once where the electrical panel was blocked by the seller's things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called the listing agent, she called me back and said, hey, the seller said you can just move his things.
Okay.
And then he was displeased
That you moved the things.
that we moved the things
Like,
to access.
did you wonder if the agent really asked the seller?
I kind of did. But then I felt like she wouldn't have called me back to be like, he's upset. Because it's like, well, you were the one who told me I could.
But then you're like, oh, I don't have that in writing.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Phone calls freak me out.
That's what, yeah.
And
maybe a
sometimes
text
when you're
would
like,
have been
hey,
better.
could you shoot me a text?
Yeah, hey, just confirming you said on the phone that we can move this stuff. Okay.
There are, and most of the home inspectors follow the rules pretty tight, which is I can't make any repair. I can't adjust anything.
Right.
And I've had a home inspector be like, look, I'm going to have to put this leaky faucet on the report, but do you see that little screw right there? That's the problem. And I'll just be like, ching, ching, ching.
Yeah.
Good. And
You got it?
looks good.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
you know, we have to use our logical side of our brain to be like,
Mm-hmm.
am I really going to get sued because I tightened that screw?
Mm-mm.
I don't think that's likely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to be so ridiculous about it.
And again, it goes back to insurance. And that's what
I
the
know.
home inspector and I were talking about with that client who was calling
Mhm.
everybody. Like when I got a call from my broker and was like, this client called me, and I just thought, oh my gosh. And then 3 hours later, I get a text from the home inspector. It's like, guess who called me?
You're like, I know.
I know who did.
I know who called you.
And I said it. He was like, yeah.
They're
that's
on the
who called me.
warpath right now.
And he was like, Alissa, as a home inspector, talk about liability.
Yeah.
Like they have to carry very serious insurance. Because look at what they're doing and with their
Right.
job. Yet we have agents over here who are like, I can't advise you on that.
Yeah.
But even something as far as like if you know there's something about a house that's going to make it hard for resale.
Yeah.
I do think it's important as the professional to say, because this house doesn't have a true primary bathroom, I do think one day when you go to sell it, it could be an obstacle that you'll have to overcome.
You need to register your professional advice.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember I think that it's fine that this house is perfect for you, but that cell phone tower in the backyard is going to make it a real hard sell in the future.
I had one client, this was years ago, where they were from like the New Orleans area. So they were very used to high flood insurance.
Okay.
Very normal where they were from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this house that they wanted to buy had very high flood insurance for our market.
Oh.
And they loved the house and they didn't care. And they were like, that's not that much compared to what we're paying now in New Orleans. I said, I know, but
in this
market, that's why this house is still on the market.
Yeah.
And I said my piece in an email.
Good. Yeah.
And would you believe, and I didn't like save this email on purpose, but like 4 years later, I was able to find it because I was selling their house. And don't you know that insurance that they had then had increased a bunch every year. It went up a little bit and they'd been there 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And now we're having trouble selling it because the flood insurance is so high. And I actually found that email in my sent mail and was like, just remember, guys, like we had this conversation. We knew when we go to sell it one day, this was going to be an issue.
Okay. How did they handle that?
They were like, yeah, I guess we just didn't like.
We didn't believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It was like the politest way I could think of
to be like, I told you this was going to happen. So you can't be mad at me now.
And that's the thing, Katie. I think that so many agents are like, I just don't want them to be mad at me. And it's like, they will be more mad at you
if you don't tell them.
If you are not telling them what you know as the professional.
Yeah.
I truly believe that real estate is one of the fewest industries where like the client is rarely right.
Okay, right.
Good point. It is actually our job.
Right. To correct them.
And say, but did you think about the flood insurance? And did you think about the cell phone tower? And you know, these are things that
you knew that how all the bedrooms being upstairs was not normal for our market.
Right.
I didn't like, this is my go-to. Like, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, listen, I don't want to be right about this house. I don't want to be right about this in the future. I just want to be happy and I just want you to be happy. So please listen to me.
I know.
But sometimes you can't stop people and they're like, this is the house we want. I'm like, well, that's also your choice.
Right.
But maybe I won't be selling it with you.
Yeah. Or I'll give it a good effort, but
or you won't sell it at all.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep it forever?
And that's fine. At the end of the day, it is their choice.
That's right.
And it is not our job to tell them what decision to make, but it is our job to walk them through everything that they need to think about in terms of this major purchase.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why the due diligence checklist is so helpful.
Yeah.
Because it covers way more than just the home inspection. Did you check the school zones that were important to you here? Is this an old fence where you're nervous about a property line? Do we need a survey?
Yeah.
Like all these things outside of just a home inspection.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to avoid any liabilities that would be a problem, right? So using a template consistently also means that you gave everyone the same exact information and the same experience. And so even if you let's say you get sued and someone's like, well, you never told me that. And you can show that every single client that year you sent the same email to and that you have your sent mail to them, maybe that helps, right?
It definitely helps.
They're like, well, obviously she does it the same way every time. And you've told every single client this thing. And these people chose not to listen. That's not your fault.
No.
It's their fault that they didn't listen or they say they didn't get it or whatever. Do you want to hear some actual, I'm going to breeze through them, but giving advice is not a liability.
No.
Okay?
It's our job. Yeah.
Okay. So I did get the actual things that are top liabilities for real estate agents.
Okay.
Just things to be aware of and maybe train yourself on. Doesn't mean you can't. All right. Well, you can't do this. Misrepresentation or false statements.
Okay.
Okay. You can't give inaccurate information about a property knowingly. Now, I mean, like,
yeah, that's fraud.
If it's
don't be a liar.
If it's an error, that's what errors and omissions insurance is for. But if you are just lying, problem. Okay, failing to disclose material facts and defects locally. Like I don't have to disclose if someone died in a property. No. Maybe you do where you are. I don't know.
Not in Louisiana.
Not here. But I do have to disclose if I know that the roof is leaking and the seller's like, oh, just don't say anything. Maybe they won't notice. Or don't put that in the property disclosure. I'm like, I'm not allowed. Not allowed.
Yeah, I can't do that.
A breach of fiduciary duty.
which I think could be not consulting them during their inspections, not guiding them through the process.
Right. It says acting in a way that harms the client's interests, like failing to negotiate or disclose conflicts of interest, can lead to lawsuits or license revocation.
Wow.
That's right. So it says maintain loyalty, confidentiality, and transparency with clients at all times.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like confrontation, this just might not be the business for you.
Right.
Because you're going to have to tell people things that they don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Discrimination is another liability. Fair Housing Act. This is, again, you want to do the same process every time. Every time you get a sign call, you want to ask the same questions. Every time you schedule a showing, you want to have the same rules. Like that kind of stuff. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Negligence or failure to exercise due care, forgetting deadlines, not reviewing contracts, or missing critical details can harm the clients and expose you to legal claims. Like you.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to share your quick story about your new contract that you just got and you negotiated your way through it and got signed and accepted, and then you got that interesting text?
So my listing agreement with my seller has the box checked right now that says, I am paying the listing brokerage X%, and checks the box that says, I am willing to negotiate in a contract a buyer's brokerage percentage.
Right. So when a buyer's agent calls you to say, are you paying? Is your seller paying?
Put it in the contract.
Put what you need in the contract.
Which seems to be what's happening in our market most.
Yes.
Okay. You would know more than me, but I think
for sure.
So. Okay. So I get a contract on my listing. First of all, so many blanks of the contract and check boxes are not completed.
So frustrating.
In fact, even the listing agent part wasn't completed.
That's bizarre.
Just the buyer side stuff. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm reading it all through. Comes off a price a little, but it's a cash offer and they don't ask for closing costs. I'm like, that makes sense. It's a cash offer. Why would you?
Didn't ask for buyer's agency.
Didn't ask for any buyer's agent commission. I'm like, all right. I present it to my seller. I had to write a counter to fill in a bunch of the blanks that were missing. I counter all of the things that we need, and we had some items that she needed to reserve. Okay, so I had to write a counter. So I put it all in there, send it to the agent, and they get their buyer to sign it. Great, under contract, perfect. The next day, I receive a text that says, hey, just wanted to check and see what the seller's offering for buyer's agent commission. And I was just like, okay.
And you said?
I said, well, there wasn't any written in the purchase agreement, and so it's none.
None. And he never responded.
Zero.
But they have scheduled their inspections.
And I mean, look, I'm not laughing. I feel bad for the agent. I assume legally, because he's supposed to, he has a buyer's agency agreement signed saying that the buyer's paying him.
Right. So now he has to have that conversation.
With his buyer. Might not be pleasant.
The thing is, it's not your problem.
I did, and here's the thing. Telling him, hey, do you need to put a buyer's agent commission in here would have actually been a poor representation for my seller.
Correct. It's not your job to catch his mistakes.
I literally shouldn't.
No. Like he wrote the contract, and there you go.
That's it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Okay, so negligence is one of these. Mm-hmm. And look, his buyer there was that story of the people at closing recently that was cycling around Instagram. We may have talked about it on the show, where the agent got sued after closing because of something the buyer and seller said to each other at closing.
Oh.
I know what it was. It was something with the inspection it doesn't matter. Anyway, but the seller said, hey, we would have given you all those repairs that you requested, but your agent did something and they were like, and so we didn't do that. So the buyer sued their own agent and was like, hey, you materially harmed my position.
Yeah, by your conversation.
By whatever you did, whatever it was, I don't remember. But it was like, when they get together, and they could get together at the closing, outside of the closing, they could meet on the street. I don't know.
Well, I've shared that story before, I think, about my client who is an attorney and called me. I sold him his house and all that. And he called me and was like, hey, could you come to my office I need you to review. I have a new case. It's a real estate case. And I just wanted you to look at a few things. I have names like blacked out and everything.
You were going to be a consultant.
I was going to be a consultant.
Okay.
So I went to the law firm, felt like Elle Woods walking in there.
You're like, I can do this.
And it was the most horribly written repair request. It had over 20 items. They were all written very vaguely, like seller to fix this, seller to fix this. Didn't say how to fix it. Didn't say
who to fix it.
Didn't say if it needed to be repaired or replaced. So he was like, this is a mess. But then on page 2, the seller checked the box that says, agree. I agree to all.
Okay.
And then after closing, buyers move in and are like, nothing's really been done. These buyers sued everybody on the advice of their attorney.
Okay, their agent.
Their attorney.
Right, but they sued their
agent. The attorney was like, everybody in this transaction acted unprofessionally.
Okay.
The buyer's agent should have never written such a vague. Open-ended, non-factual repair request.
And did they even do a walkthrough?
They did, but never collected receipts. So the buyers
assumed it was
sued their agent because the attorney was like, these repairs are actually impossible to say yes to because they're open-ended. Then they said the sellers and the listing agent. The listing agent was held liable for allowing her seller
to sign off.
Saying, sure, I'll do all 27 of these things.
Even though if she had read it, she'd be like, you can't.
Right.
Do
I
some
think
of these.
Sometimes agents just say, hey, here's their repair request. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Are you, as the agent, reviewing the repair request and advising your sellers of the potential complications that could come from what these buyers are requesting? Are you saying, hey, I really don't think we should agree to this one because this is very vague and it could cause problems right before closing? The buyers sued, everybody.
Anyone and everyone.
Yeah, they were just so angry.
Do you know how it shook out?
I don't.
But you were like, I know see where the problems were.
I see it, and I saw that they moved forward with their lawsuit.
Yikes. Okay, here's some other reasons for liability. Actual real ones, not just showing up to an inspection, which is not a cause for liability. Unauthorized practice of law. So you cannot offer legal advice.
Yes.
Interpreting contracts or making changes to agreements without the proper qualifications, okay? Cybersecurity and data breaches. We've talked about this.
I got a spam one today.
Yeah.
Like my seller did.
Yeah. So handling sensitive client information, like in financial, all of this could be a liability if you're not
Is your email secure?
Right,
Do you have a secure email?
Yeah. Improper handling of funds. This is the one they love to put in the classes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't put their money in our personal account, all that jazz. Advertising and marketing violations. So false advertising, copyright violations, misleading marketing, overstepping license authority. So acting beyond the scope of your license. So example, performing an appraisal or an inspection.
Not an appraiser.
Not either of these things.
I will do your home inspection.
Right, I got this, no problem. Dual agency conflicts, so representing both can create conflicts of interest or claims of favoritism. I would agree with that. Independent contractor misclassification. So misclassifying team members as independent contractors when they're legal employees. The public has to know who you are and
what capacity you're acting in.
And then contract errors, mistakes in contracts such as missing clauses or incorrect terms. You better be good at contracts.
There should be 0 blanks. On your purchase agreement. If there's a blank that you're not using,
it should be NA.
You put NA.
I know. And the last one was inadequate training or supervision. Risk. Teams or new agents under your supervision might make errors that reflect on you.
Which is why I'll never have a team.
Right. Or be a broker. This is the
I don't want to be a broker.
Right. There's lots of liability there. Like my broker would say she wasn't going to an inspection. I'm like, well, I can maybe understand as the broker.
Yeah.
But anywho, do you have any other things you want to say about being helpful versus being liable? Or maybe we should have just said doing your job
do your job
versus being liable.
I know. You can't live in fear. We have insurance.
You are incurring some liability by doing the job.
Any job.
Living your life. You incur liability living your life.
But I think too many agents hide behind that excuse.
Yeah.
and we must stop.
Yeah, we must stop. I really want you to tell the story about if you should or shouldn't cancel photos based on showing up and the condition of a property. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, but I can't remember what the liability side of it was.
Well, okay, I'll sort of paraphrase it really quickly. You showed up to a listing. There was a lot of details.
There's been many times I've showed up on photo day and to turn on lights, and I texted the photographer to say, no photos today. It is not ready.
It's not ready, but it's one thing to move a toothbrush from the countertop to a cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
It was that
I had to move a lot.
A lot of stuff.
Oh, I know what lady this is.
Oh, you know.
I do know. Do you
want to, because the story is kind of wild.
It is a wild, I forgot about this story.
Yeah, I would have blocked it out of my brain too.
And it wasn't that long ago. I really blocked it out. It was
really bad. Okay, so now that you remember, please tell us.
Okay, I got a referral from an agent in another market who I respect greatly.
Great.
I was honored by this referral.
Okay.
I meet the client.
Okay.
The seller.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh my, I've rarely had to fire a seller.
Okay.
And I just thought.
You wanted to fire them before you hired? They hired you?
Yes. I just
pre-firing?
But I stuck to my guns and I just said, I'm not having a photographer here until it's tidied.
Okay.
We are not taking photos this way.
Okay.
Also, backstory, it was listed with another agent and didn't sell.
Okay.
So we need to make some changes here.
Right.
Oh, man.
The day of the photos. Let's just do the day of the photos.
I went back several times, and she did more than I thought she would do, but there was so much more to be done.
Okay.
So the day of photos come, and it was mostly fine.
Okay.
But, she had done a lot, but she had left out, a bunch of medication.
Okay.
And there was all these, tiny little gift bags sitting on her couch.
Okay.
So I just put everything in the closet.
Okay.
And left it there. Okay. I didn't retake everything out after we left for photos. Okay. So.
But it was also just not ready.
It wasn't.
Kleenexes.
There was, some Kleenexes
dishes
by her bed. She had,
was the bed made?
This day it was.
Okay, good.
So we were going to have pictures one day.
And you were
they were scheduled. And I got there early to turn on lights. And I don't like my sellers to be there on photo day because they're anxiously trying to fluff a pillow and they're in the way. And me and the photographer are trying to do her thing. And I'm measuring rooms. So I tell them, be gone.
Be gone.
So she actually went to her brother's house who lives 45 minutes away. So she was
she was real gone. Okay.
So I called her and was like, no. I'm not making your bed. It had Kleenexes in it. It was, I've made beds before. Don't get me wrong. This was another level and I'm trying to be respectful of what I say on air. Okay.
Great.
So I canceled photos. Great. Now it's the new photo day.
Great.
And it's much better, but there's a few little.
You're still having to move a few things.
I'm still having to move, which is
fine.
Normal. Okay. Right? We're always tweaking a little bit how we want it. So we have photos. Photos happen. And it's fine. Whatever. Well, the next morning at 6 a.m., I wake up to these manic text messages. And she's like, where is my jewelry? You took it. I need to know where my jewelry is. And it's but it was one of those texts where it's every sentence was a new text. So it was you have 17 text messages. And I'm like, is this really what I'm waking up to right now? I haven't even listed this house.
Oh, it was still not listed yet.
No,
just the photos.
Just the photos. We were going to list it as soon as I got the photos back.
Okay.
And she's like, you need to come here right now and show me where all these things are. And she starts calling me over and over again. I'm waking my kids up. It's not even 7 a.m. yet. I'm trying to get my kids ready for school. I finally called the other agent that referred her to me. And I said, listen. Oh, well, okay. I said, listen, I cannot take this client. I said, I'm so sorry. This is what's going on. She's accusing me of stealing. She started accusing me of taking her medications. I'm like, I haven't even listed this house yet and I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And now my character is being brought into question and I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I totally understand. I'm so sorry. Like, don't even worry about it. Da da da. Da. Like, block her number, you know, all this stuff. The lady even said, I was watching you on the cameras and you did not wear your booties.
Oh, were you supposed to be in booties?
There was like a basket of like medical.
You weren't given instructions though.
No. There was a basket of like medical grade, like blue slip-on booties. But when I had gone all the other times for like the listing appointment, she never wore them and I never wore them. And she has a dog and the floors are wrecked. So I'm like,
what do I do with the booties?
Why am I wearing these booties? To protect me from the grime of your floor? Because that's the only thing I can see. Like,
right.
So this lady just lost her mind.
She was watching you on the camera. You should have been like, well, where did you see me put the jewelry?
Right. You saw me go in the room with the closet and just put everything there.
Oh, my word.
It was such a racket.
Okay.
But I thought liability-wise.
It was bad.
Yeah. Like, we have to be.
She could have called the cops on you.
She could have called the cops. It made me think of like. I'm like, is there audio with this camera? Because me and the photographer had conversations.
You're like, oh, God.
I'm like, God, how do I get the dog smell out of here? How do I? And it's like a $600,000 listing. It's not like it was fixer-upper rundown thing. It was a very expensive area, location.
Oh,
but
my word.
I was just like, I'm not doing this.
So did you not take the listing?
I just like blocked her. And was like, I'm not your agent anymore. Bye.
And she stopped.
I blocked her.
You did tell her, though, where the things you moved to the closet were in the closet.
Yeah, and then she found them.
And then she was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, but also
I am not.
But you're like, no, thank you.
Bye.
Good for you.
Oh, my God.
That was rough.
But, y'all, cameras.
Yeah, you should be.
You will be caught on camera.
Like the guy clipping his nails.
Guy clipping his nails in the living room or at the doorbell. Like.
And also, your clients are being caught on camera. So I do think you carry some amount of liability for not warning your buyers or not warning your, like, hey, we're going into a property. You could be surveilled.
Yeah. Are they making a comment about the quote unquote type of people who live here?
Yeah, right.
Like, you're breaking fair housing violations on camera.
Yeah, don't do that.
We had an agent recently who it was a something at our board where someone was filing a complaint. And they were like, no, it was me. I went to the house. It was like someone gave their code to somebody else.
Oh.
And when the agent was called out about it, the agent was like, no, I was there. And they were like, well, according to this video footage, are you a blonde female? Because that's who opened the door, not you. We have on video who went into the house and it's not you.
And what happened?
I think they had to suspend their license. Like, it was a big deal. And I think it was suspended not only because they made the mistake, but because they lied about it. So it was like, you are.
Yeah, because I will say for the record, our board and commission I find to be a little slap on the wristy.
Yeah, they are.
They're not going to be like, straight to jail. Pay $5,000.
It depends on how you handle
They'll
it.
be like, give me $75 and like.
Mm-hmm. How many offenses have you had?
Right.
How many times have you been complained against? Like, yeah, I agree. But I just think we all need the reminder that you just need to pretend like you're always on camera.
In life.
It
makes me sad for my kids.
I know.
I'm like, you're just used to it.
Aren't you so glad our high school days aren't on camera?
Oh, I wasn't even on camera in college, friend.
Oh, man, yeah.
Jealous,
all
aren't you?
those albums are locked private
Well,
now
let me tell you, they don't even exist. No photo evidence. Okay.
Wait, you had that seller that got super upset because they saw on camera?
Okay, well, there wasn't even on camera. I think he drove by, or maybe it was a Ring doorbell, but he was so mad. It was my listing. During the inspection, he called me just outraged and yelling and cursing at me because there were 6 cars there.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, let me see who's there, first of all. So I text the agent. Well, the agent worked with their mom. It was like a team. I don't even remember.
Okay, 2 cars.
2 cars for them because they were like, well, we'll just both pop over. The buyer was like a couple, so 2 cars there.
Okay.
There was the inspector.
Yeah,
and
5.
I think there was like the termite person.
Sure.
So it was like
6
6 cars.
Yeah. And if they wanted 10 cars,
they could.
It's their due diligence period.
Right. They can have as many people as they want. And I'm like, okay, well, and I told them these are the people who are there. Well, I have $25,000 of antique guns under the bed. I'm like, hold up. One, what, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
Because I would have immediately been like, if you have something valuable that you don't want in your home while other people are there, then you've got to lock it up or remove it.
In all fairness, in the email templates, we have that on the showings checklist. Remove firearms, medication, jewelry. We have it on showing instructions.
Yeah.
We have it on open house instructions.
Yeah. He was like losing it. And I was like, after, I am so nice and I am you get more flies with honey type of person.
You
so
are
I was
really
very
good.
kind for a while. And then finally I was like, that's enough.
Because he was yelling at you.
You will not speak to me this any way. He was like, come get your sign. I'm done. I'm like, I don't think you understand.
Mm-mm.
We're under contract. My name is already on it. This is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, I'll come get the sign, but it doesn't change the fact that I have to finish representing you to the end of closing.
Right.
And you have to pay me. And I'm like, but you will not talk to me this way anymore. And I will no longer be speaking to you. So you can have your wife call me if there's anything that you need.
How did the rest of the transaction go?
It's been so many years, but
Yeah.
I seem to recall he was maybe just one of those people that in person he toned it down.
Yeah.
Like on the phone, we're
He's
just all
brave
big
on the
and bad.
phone.
But I will tell you, post-closing of that transaction, because the hard ones are always the hard ones,
Mm-hmm.
it closes, things are fine. I got an irate phone call from the buyer, not my client.
The actual buyer?
Hours after closing. I am literally laying in a hammock on a Friday afternoon with a beer. I'm not even joking you, on my porch, like, hooray, closing day, it's the weekend, yahoo! And this irate buyer calls me because the man left some stuff in the shed and the wood pile, like the pile of firewood. And I was
Sure.
like,
Yeah, who cares? Build a
Okay.
fire.
I don't want this firewood here. And I was like, oh.
Sorry.
I'm like, who gave you my number?
Yeah.
Like, why are you? I'm like, okay. I wanted to be like, first of all, I never want to talk to that man again.
Yeah, I'm not calling him.
I'm not calling him for you. I don't want to talk to him ever again. But I was like, okay, I'll let him know. I think I probably sent a text and was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Bye.
I am out. Here,
Mhm.
Here's his phone number. Enjoy.
You call him and see how that goes.
Good luck. Good luck.
Oh
But you
my
know what?
gosh.
Even in those moments, I would have those panicked feelings like, am I in a place where I could be sued for what am I saying? What am I doing? Like, even as I'm laughing about it now, in the moment, it
It's very
wasn't
scary.
funny.
No.
It was frightening.
Very frightening.
And the most frightened I think I've ever been was from an ugly agent who kept threatening me. And I knew I didn't do anything wrong. And even still, I felt like, but even though I didn't do anything wrong, in Louisiana, anyone can sue you for anything.
I know. Yeah.
And I would have to pay for the lawyer. And at that point in
To
time,
defend
I definitely
yourself.
wasn't in the financial position to be like, oh, sure, no big deal. I'll just
No.
get a lawyer and it'll all be
it's so-
fine.
yeah, it's a lot.
So,
I think
yeah.
you need to have your systems in place.
Uh-huh.
They need to be simple. They need to be consistently followed the same with every single
Always.
client.
Yep.
Phone calls need to be followed up with a brief email,
Mhm.
especially, if something that was
Just recapping
decided.
what we just talked about on the phone.
Mm-hmm. And you need to be mindful always of what you're saying and
Yeah.
that you're on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not that hard. And I know we've shared some examples today.
right.
But even through those examples, we've never been sued.
No. And it was so funny in my post-licensing course at the board in 2005, I remember the agent that taught it was like, I've been in the business 25 years. And I can assure you, by the time you hit year 3, you will have been sued. And I was like, oh my God. The fear I operated under for so long. I was like, oh, you're all gonna be sued, is what she told us in the class. And I was like, we are. I've made a terrible mistake. I don't want to be sued. This sounds awful. The last little tidbit. As far as giving advice in liability, it is not your place to take a personal stance against something that your client would like to do. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if the seller is like, oh, I don't mind paying the buyer's commission, and you're like, no, you don't have to, and you're not gonna.
Right.
That's really not your place.
Yes, it is not our job to tell them what you think they should do.
No.
As your personal, passionate opinion.
I can give professional advice.
Yes.
Not my opinions or my desires.
There are some agents out there who have been like, I'm telling my sellers, you pay nothing to the buyer's agent. And it's like, how about we let them make that decision?
Yeah.
We look at a net sheet.
Yeah.
We try to get their house sold. And if we need to increase a price to cover other costs, whether it's closing costs or otherwise, what do we need to do to get the house sold?
Right.
Don't die on this hill.
Yeah, it's a weird hill to die on.
But some agents pick something like that.
Well, they think they're selling their house.
I know.
I'm like, yes, it's not actually what you're doing.
Yeah, your clients do have a choice, and it's just our job to educate them on what their choices are.
I've had agents get angry with me because I send in the offer that my buyers want to make, which maybe I have even told them was too low.
Sure.
The agent is so mad because the offer is so low. And then they're like, the seller's never going to take this. And then the seller takes it.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe, and then they come back with this. Well, it's accepted. I can't believe this. Like, who cares?
Yeah. How about you say,
happy.
Thank you.
Seller, happy.
Thank you.
Okay. End of story.
My word.
What you looking for?
I was seeing who our toast is from.
Oh,
where
did
he's
you find
from.
it?
I did.
Okay, good. You read it. You do it.
Are you ready for our
I'm ready for the toast.
It's PA, Pennsylvania.
PA is Pennsylvania.
Just wanted to make sure.
Or physician's assistant.
Yeah. So many things it could be.
PA is Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm going to read our toast this week because we got an email.
Perfect.
Okay, this is from Bob McLaughlin in Pennsylvania.
Perfect.
My toast is to my fellow Coldwell Banker realtor, Hannah Schultz. Hannah and I are both relatively new, and she introduced me to Hustle Humbly by sharing your CRM spreadsheet and a link to your podcast with me in August of last year. The CRM and the podcast have been immensely helpful in organizing and planning. I'm so grateful to Hannah for showing me Hustle Humbly. It is a perfect example of the type of person Hannah is. Collaborative, thoughtful, friendly. She absolutely rocks, and I hope she crushes 2025.
I hope she crushes 2025 too.
Go Hannah. Go Bob.
That's right. Thank you, Bob, for sending in a toast.
Yeah.
It's been a minute since we read one.
I know.
I love it. Okay, well.
This was good.
Y'all, you have
just laughing our way through liability.
Right. I mean, like, that's a great title. Laughing our way. This is not a laughing matter.
Not very serious matter.
We can't even be serious when it's a serious matter.
I know. I think the more
we're
serious
not
it
to
is,
be trusted.
I get the giggles like worse.
I know. I do. We do.
It's like in church when you can't stop.
You're like, this is too serious. It's fine. Y'all are going to be okay. Just be thoughtful and just
mindful.
Yeah. Do your job.
Professional.
Okay. And goodbye.